Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and we are back again at the Craft Beer Cellar, recording in one of our favorite spots. If you're in downtown Plymouth on Main Street, make sure you stop in for some beer, and they have some boutique wine upstairs. And we're always looking for different types of creative people to keep it interesting and kind of see if the creative people really do have the same kind of mindset. And we stumbled across a fashion designer. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mya Royal, welcome to the show. We met you at the Food and Wine Expo.
Thank you.
Last week. Was it last week? It was like last week.
It was
right?
on the 18th.
18th, yeah. So you guys can run over to the Old Colony Cast and check out that episode. And after talking to Mya for a couple minutes on that, I'm like, you should totally come on for a full episode.
Yeah.
So, after a couple drinks, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. So, how did you get to be a fashion designer? I feel like that's one of those jobs that, like, I knew a lot of girls that wanted to be them and went to school for it and either never did it or dropped out or maybe graduated and ended up in something completely different. Like, was this something you always wanted to do?
No, not at all. It's just something that I always did. It's kind of a dream profession, and I know what you're talking about. A lot of people fantasize about how great it would be to be a fashion designer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of glamour in the fashion industry. But for me, the experience has been very different. I started sewing as a kid, when I was really young. And for me, it was a way to speak, to create and to speak. I didn't have to say anything. I could express myself with clothing. And my parents, I grew up in a pretty stable environment, but my parents did not have a budget per se to go out and take me shopping for tons of expensive, fashionable clothes.
Yeah.
So I also wanted the opportunity to have nice clothing that, would be impressive. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was a perfect solution. I happened across a sewing machine. There's this wonderful story about how my childhood friend's grandmother died, and I went to go clean out her trailer, and there was a sewing machine that had never really been used, and
was
they
it
gave
like a
it
light
to me.
around it? It was like, oh.
Yeah, it was kind of glowing, and there were like angels descending, and it was like, wonderful. So Cupid and I carried the sewing machine back to my parents' car, and that kind of started it all. But yeah, I made all my clothes, and then I went to art school.
Yeah.
And I finally did.
What school did you go to?
I went to Mass Art.
Okay. Yeah.
And I went to UMass Boston. UMass Boston actually bought a lot of my artwork, the artwork that I had made in school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was kind of unusual.
That's kind of cool.
It was very cool. It was very cool. And so I took their check and I went to South Station and I put it in the ATM there and went to New York City. I was like, I live here now.
So was that kind of like, did you move to New York because like, oh, this is where fashion is? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. New York is fashion central. It's great. Yeah. But I didn't stay in the end. Instead, I tried the LA fashion scene too, and then I ended up in Italy. I had the Italian citizenship from birth, and it had always kind of been my plan.
Yeah.
And that's where I really started to set more serious goals as a fashion designer. Like I opened a real studio in Florence, and I had wonderful clients. I did almost everything was custom made.
Yeah.
And I was telling you before where we met at the wine expo that I had never really made it my plan to raise a family in Italy, which is why I came back here.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty comfortable back in the South Shore where I
in
grew
the
up.
Suburbs.
Yeah,
it's a great place to raise kids. And,
yeah, it is.
I'm basically done. Mine are borderline adults.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yours are super young.
I have 4-year-old twins.
So, oh God, help you. Boys or girls?
They're boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, your house is gonna be destroyed.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy.
But do you see any? Because I remember with my daughter, very early on, she showed an interest in art and drawing. Do you see that yet?
Oh, yeah. They're very creative. And their preschool teachers tell me, too. They mention it. Like, they make a point to say, oh, they're very creative. They love to draw and color and do these things. And it's true. It's nice. It's nice to see it.
My daughter used to critique me as I drew.
Oh, really?
So she'd be like, can you draw me this? Because, like, one of our favorite things to do was, instead of, like, getting a coloring book, like, I would draw something and, use a black marker and make an outline, and then she would color it in. Mm-hmm. And so, like, she'd be like, oh, can you draw a giraffe or whatever? And then as I'm drawing, she'd be like, it's got 2 eyes. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's got 4 I know it's got 4 And just the whole time, she would, like, critique what I was doing.
I think it only works if you wait till the person finishes first and then you critique.
It's very frustrating. But she's pretty much the same way now. And so she's right.
That's
but
all right.
So
one of my sons tells me what to wear.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like, oh, I love that coat. It's perfect. He's so cute.
So, do you feel there's like, is it something that you really, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, okay, let me phrase it this way. So, I know 2 types of chefs. Mm-hmm. There's a kind of chef that makes everything from scratch all the time, and then there's a kind of chef that is kind of like, works all day in the kitchen, doesn't really want to make himself anything, and goes to like Taco Bell. Like, do you feel that kind of like, oh, I do fashion? Is that a verb? I do fashion.
Coco Chanel once said, "I don't do fashion. I am fashion."
So it's a verb and an adjective. Like, do you ever feel like obligated to kind of like dress up all the time, or
not dress up? But to wear clothes that I've made is only smart, because if somebody likes it and they ask about it, then I can say that I've made it.
Yeah.
And I can promote my business just sort of naturally that way.
Nice.
And that is how it all started, if you think about it, because I was making my own clothes in the beginning.
Right.
As opposed to selling any. But
did you have like your friends when you were younger that wanted to?
Yeah, and in fact, the first custom men's suit that I ever made, I think I was like 18 years old. Somebody came to me and asked for a tux for prom, and I think this is just natural. It's just how it works.
Was it powder blue?
It wasn't. It was made of pleather. It was like a rock and roll.
Yeah, like a punk rock tux.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
So what is like your signature thing? Like, what do you really enjoy doing?
I do a lot of formal wear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Like, I do like the fancy gowns and the suits and whatnot. But I actually prefer, the thing I like to make most is leather goods, like jackets and handbags and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that really rewarding. I like those items.
And so
I like it all.
Now, when it comes to something like leather, how do you feel about the whole like animal rights issues?
Oh, well, animal rights is a thing, but I mean, I eat meat. I am not a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I consider it to be very similar. I don't buy a lot. So there's a lot to start at the beginning.
Okay. You were born.
I was born. Like I said, I'm not a vegetarian, and I think that using leather and fur is okay. I think that eating meat is okay. But when the other thing is that when you look at the alternatives like the eco leathers, they cause other problems. They're not actually biodegradable. They aren't fully developed.
Yeah.
So those materials really, maybe they solve one problem by sparing the lives of animals, but then they create other problems by filling up landfills. A lot of those eco leathers are also really inexpensive, and you find that they're
like a sweatshop or something? Or?
Well, there is that, and that's very real. And then the other issue is that they get snapped up by fast fashion consumers who are buying new things every season and throwing them out. So it's creating a ton of waste that's never going to degrade.
Yeah.
So it's not actually really aptly named eco leather. It's not an environmentally or ecologically sound product.
Yeah.
As far as leathers themselves are concerned, as a designer, I make my choices carefully. So I don't buy from huge tanneries that are, under scrutiny by animal rights activists because they're treating animals in a horrible way. I'm buying more from like local tanneries. If I even buy a lot of the leathers and the furs that I use are also repurposed.
Yeah.
So for me, I've found a happy medium.
That's a question I had, and I think it's gone now. Damn it. That happens sometimes. So you were talking about, kind of oh, Jesus. Can we edit that out, maybe?
Wait.
That's not going to happen.
Who had the drinks?
Yeah. My brain's just fried. You're talking about sustainability.
Oh, yeah.
And...
yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, so when you design, do you try to kind of have a timeless look so it doesn't go out of style?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the other thing is that the stuff's not cheap.
Yeah. And
for me, I think it's important to make investments and also in the way that you look. So if you buy something, like I don't do trendy stuff, and I don't make stuff just for one season necessarily. I make things that people might keep for a lifetime or even hand on to their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're often called heirloom garments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you begin? Like, what is the process like? Because that I find baffling.
There's a lot of sort of musing in the beginning, if you will. There's a lot of thinking that goes on in the first stages where you're just kind of determining what it is you even want to create, and there's like some philosophy that goes into it. There's a whole bunch of brainstorming, and it depends on who you're working with. If it's a client project, then they might bring in pictures, different things that they like. They might bring in actual garments that they've worn in the past.
Yeah.
And then we kind of decide on different stylistic elements and colors and materials. There's a lot of sampling that goes on, the fabric samples. I order them from a variety of places. For the most part, I get them from Tuscany and Italy. And some of the fabric samples come from New York. Some of them come from South Korea. They kind of come from all over. And so we look at all these scraps of fabric, decide on what materials to use. And
so
it's a whole bunch of mess in the beginning, to be honest.
How long does this take?
It depends. Yeah. It can take a long time. And part of the reason it can take a long time is some clients just don't have a ton of time to come in.
Right.
And, in the beginning, they do have to come in a couple times or at least do like a video chat or something.
Yeah. And I assume you'd have to have a fitting or
and eventually, absolutely. And so sometimes people's schedules get in the way, and it's just like, in some cases, weeks can go by before they can actually do a fitting. So we just wait.
Yeah.
And in other cases, it goes really quickly. It kind of depends on the person and the actual garment.
And what do they kind of typically look for? Is it like wedding dresses and formal dresses, or just have people be like, hey man, I need 6 pairs of slacks? Actually,
that happens a lot. Yeah. Some people do bring me, some lady just brought me her favorite shirt, and she said, I'd like 5 of these.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. And it's fine. No problem.
So you just recreate the
thing and we kind of talk about, is there any design flaw in this shirt that you'd like to see altered? Is there a different kind of material you would prefer? We talk about it a little, and then I just get to work making the shirts. And in other cases, it's different. A client recently came to me and wanted several suits made at once, and he really didn't seem to care so much about what they looked like. He was kind of up to you. And so
do you take that as a mwahaha? Shows up it's blue covered with duckies.
Well, we've had a lot of fun with that project. Yeah. There are now there's fur involved, and there's some really special fabrics from Italy. And
wow!
It's a good time. So it really just depends on the person who comes to me. And then outside of that, there is a ready to wear line that I'm developing, and that includes more basic items that people could just choose for every day that would appeal to a greater number of people.
Yeah.
But that's also fun for me. It's all kind of fun for me.
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's you talk about New York and Italy. And I just don't think of this area as
No, it doesn't. No. That's all right, though. Everybody wears clothes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I just don't think of people around here as being fashionistas, I guess. That's a word, right?
Right. Yeah. It is a word. Well, you'd be surprised, actually. Yeah. I think, too, it has to do with what you're offered. Living here in New England, you're not necessarily offered the opportunity to be a fashionista.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You kind of have to go out of your way.
Yeah.
So now that I'm here, a lot of people who have that interest they don't have to go so far.
Yeah, you're kind of like the only game in town.
Like, come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the only game, but kind of, because there aren't too many fashion designers setting up shop here.
What's kind of the most interesting thing, like the weirdest thing you've designed? So you always see like those fashion shows where you walk down the runway and you're like, no one would ever wear that.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I don't feel like those are really meant to be everyday wear. It's more of either like a really special event, or it's just the art of what they're showing off. Have you ever done like one of those weird...
Yeah, I have. When I first started my business, it was like 2009. I was operating in Boston. I was literally squatting in an apartment in the North End on this nice little apartment. It had like this beautiful view. It was in the penthouse apartment, and somehow I ended up in there. That belonged
to someone else.
It was crazy. And I was in there for several months, and the owners were very, very nice to me. But I was starting out, and I made this garment, and I don't even know what to call it other than that, and it looked like a lampshade.
Okay.
And it really did, and even some relatives, some family members saw it, and they said, "Oh yeah, the lampshade." But it ended up selling quite well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really funny.
And you could wear it as a shirt, or you could wear it as a skirt, or you could wear it as a shawl. And I ended up, like I said, actually it sold quite well. And I remember one particular young lady, super beautiful young lady, bought it for her vacation in the Mediterranean, and it was like this like star-defining moment.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
now,
cool.
do your parents... Like, were they supportive the whole time, or were they like, maybe you should have a fallback?
Yeah, I mean, of course that happened. Yeah. I remember one of my earliest memories, I think, was of my parents helping me get dressed, and I put my top over my overalls, and they were so impressed that I was so ingenious. And they said, "Oh, you should be a fashion designer." And I remember this memory. It's like really, really strong. I think my parents were always really... underneath all of their practical concerns, I think they were always rooting for me, and they just wanted me to do something creative because I've always been a creative. Yeah.
And like I said, my daughter, I feel very much the same way. It's like the first day we let her dress herself, she wore a Tigger like zip up onesie and the back half of Darth Vader's helmet. And we're like, right on, man. If that's what makes you happy, knock yourself out.
That's awesome.
Do you think that more people should kind of encourage their kids to kind of have that creative flair?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's difficult. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I was squatting in an apartment. There were real financial concerns, particularly during the recession. That was very scary. But what are you going to do? Be someone you're not?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't live like that. So, of course, I think parents should absolutely consider it their duty to encourage their children to be exactly what they are and to follow their real strengths. And if that means going into a creative field, then by all means, as a parent, you do everything you can to help them.
What was the one thing that you found surprising about working in this industry? Or that like you're like, ugh, I really hate whatever. Is there like one thing that kind of you didn't expect, or that you really don't enjoy about it?
The status quo. It's always the status quo.
What do you mean as far as just kind of...
Oh, goodness. If you look at the fashion industry, I mean, the trends are just so important. It shapes everything. And... they're not based on anything. I mean, in fact, one of the first things that my director taught me in the master's program in Florence, Italy, which is the top fashion city in the world, he said, none of this stuff we need. We don't need anything here. This is not stuff we need. This is stuff we want. Right? Because practically speaking, you really need very little.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this industry and you see these people just buying trendy stuff because they think they need it for one reason or another, this is infuriating and it's horrifying. It turns my stomach.
So is that why you try to avoid that kind of trendy...
I do. I think it's pointless.
Seasonal shopping, okay?
Yeah, it's not good for the environment. It's not good for your personal finances. It's better... It's not necessarily good for your image. It's nicer to have a constant image that's authentic to you.
Yeah.
and to actually look good because you are exactly what you are instead of trying to be something else just because it's stylish.
So, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. So you think you should dress kind of for yourself and not for someone else? Is that
sure. That's one way to
fair?
say it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are all kinds of rules. For example, a few years ago at the Cannes Film Festival, they turned some lady away because she was not wearing high heels.
Are you serious?
That's what I'm talking about when I say the status quo drives me crazy. It's absolutely infuriating. So the woman was wearing flats and she couldn't go into the festival.
That's crazy.
Yes, I agree.
There was
it
an
is
article, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. There's some girl that she attended a Christian high school, and someone posted a picture of her at her birthday wearing a rainbow sweater, and she got expelled.
Well, that's also crazy.
Right. I mean, it's just like, it's so weird. Like, I was definitely the kind of kid that would buck the system a little in high school. I very much, looking back now, I'd be like, I dressed the way I want to, and the same way that every other kid that I hung around with dressed too. So it's like that. It gave me the feeling of independence, but at the same time, camaraderie with my friends.
Oh, for sure. And I think that team mentality is important. We're pack animals. Yeah. And part of the way that we identify is in the way that we dress. So you wear certain things like, a teamster or trucker might wear like a certain kind of hat, certain kind of boots or whatever, and he kind of identifies with his comrades, this is what we do. We do it all day, every day, and it's nice. Yeah. And it gives you a little pep. Also, this is just this, I was watching something on YouTube the other day, somebody talking about why he wears suits in 2019, because it gives him this feeling of invincible quality when he goes out trying to make big sales deals. Huh. And I was like, okay, I can get behind that. I understand. Yeah. You want to look really professional. So that's fine. You don't have to be completely unique all the time, but you should be yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have someone that I might know that you really like the way they dress, and maybe not a fashion designer, but someone whose style that you like? It's a Bjork with the swan dress.
The swan dress. I do like those outlandish costumes, but they're never my favorite. It's always just for the shock value.
Of course, yeah. I mean, they're fun for what they are.
Yeah. I recently watched a documentary on Ralph Lauren, and I really appreciated it. And I think that that's a huge fashion icon in the States that I've always
is he
more than admired, but really deeply respected, that kind of style.
Is he the one, and you may not know this, that he did all the design, costume design for Fifth Element?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know if
Research?
he did that.
This is why we keep Fish around.
Okay. Do some fact checking.
He Googles compulsively, so I ask him strange questions, and he feels the absolute need to Google them. So
I mean, it's better to be right than wrong.
Nah, it's just more fun to torture him.
Costume design for Fifth.
The costume designer for Fifth Element was Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Come on, that's pretty close.
Yes.
Also an excellent
It was
designer.
a guy with a name.
Yep.
Good job, Andy.
That's okay.
So what is it about his stuff that really...
I love the way that he adapted menswear styles to women's wear without compromising femininity. He really did that very well. He tailored men's clothes to women, and he changed certain styling elements, but he maintained this sort of, fierce independence, this kind of brash confidence that you find in menswear. He didn't water it down in any way, but somehow he maintained this balance, this kind of perfect gender balance. It's very admirable what he did there, and he seemed to do it very naturally too. Yeah.
That's one of the things about greatness is they always make it look easy.
Which really, I'm sure it was not.
No, but every great artist or athlete or whatever they are, they just make it look easy, and you're like, I can do that. No, I can't. No, I can't.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how he was kind of like taking men's wear and make it into women's wear. Now there's so much more gender fluid people and trans people. Do you find that's affecting the fabric, Jesus Christ, the fashion industry in any specific way?
I think that I think it's helping. Because for a long time we've had these sort of polarized, extreme gender norms.
Yeah.
Where men can't wear skirts and women have to shave their legs and men have to shave their faces, and it's all like very black and white, and none of it really actually makes sense after you start thinking about it.
Right.
So I think all this new gender fluidity is really helping. I think that a lot of people have paid the price in the process.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's not been an easy transition.
No, I think there's been a ton of personal sacrifice for many people. But in the end, what seems to be happening is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, when you have a customer, do you take into, I mean, obviously you would have to take into their gender in some fashion, but is that like a question that you would ask? Like, what kind of gender do you identify as? Or like, how would, like...
I just kind of take them at their word. I mean, people generally present how they want to be seen, and they're pretty clear right off the bat about what kinds of things they're looking for. So at this point, I've never had to actually ask about that, but I don't think that I would, because it's sort of an old paradigm now.
Yeah.
It's already becoming history, that idea of like you're one or the other.
Yeah.
It's not really that way.
I just find it so fat. Like, I can't imagine going in and being like, make me a shirt, because I've always purchased something off of the rack.
Right.
And, most of the time it's just like, I just want to get in and out.
Anytime.
But I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like,
well, we make a file on you. We take your measurements.
A file, Jesus, that sounds scary.
It's a 2-page file. It just has your measurements and your contact info, and you just fill it all
your
out.
Mother's maiden name.
No, but then it's just a piece of paper. I don't even put it in a digital system.
Yeah.
And you get a little file, and then as we proceed, like if you choose certain samples of fabrics that you really like, or if you bring anything in, it might go in that file folder.
Yeah.
Just to keep things organized. And then we just start a discussion, and you say what you need the shirt for, and...
So people will come in and specifically be like, I want a work shirt, or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
a lot of people do that, too, because the shirts off the rack don't fit everyone. Like, it's just that simple.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Some people, for example, like for men, with the men's shirts, a lot of the complaints that I hear with the arms, either the men have really long arms, they're like tall guys, and so the arms are always short.
Yeah.
Like, always. Or... one person, for example, his complaint was that he would have to curtail his workouts at the gym because if his biceps got too big, then he couldn't fit them into any of the shirts that he could find in the stores.
Tell me about it.
So I thought that's a pretty good complaint.
Too hard at that.
Yeah, well, I don't think everyone has that particular complaint,
no.
But it is a complaint that is worth, addressing, and no pun intended. You got to make a new shirt. So, okay, fine. And a variety of problems like this.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. It's like when you build anything to the quote unquote standard or the average, you actually end up excluding more people than you're fitting.
Unfortunately, it is true.
Do you get all age ranges? Do you have people come in and be like, make my 4-year-old do you make all your own your kids' own clothes?
I don't, because if I did, I'd be making clothes all the time. They grow so fast. But they are hounding me for some dinosaur costumes. They want spider costumes and dinosaur costumes.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I have to make a tiny dress for a little girl coming up. And I think my oldest client, I think the clients range into retirement age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just made me, when you're talking about costumes, like, do you love Halloween? Is that like...
Oh, it's fun. I don't love it any more than... Because every day you get to dress.
Yeah.
And so you can...
Yeah, you don't get to dress as a dinosaur every day. I mean, your kids might, but, like, I can't go to work dressed as a dinosaur
Would
every
you
day.
want to? I
don't know, maybe.
Wonder if you should try it.
I could get away with one day. I feel like after a week, they'd be like, Annie, we need to talk to you.
Well, we'll give it a shot.
Or it's one of those... We're very concerned.
I think it just depends on what your job is. Some jobs do have dress codes.
Yeah.
Other jobs, not so much.
Ours is pretty loose, but it would be more one of those. I'd be at my desk being like, well, it doesn't say I can't wear a dinosaur costume.
You try it and let me know.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you know on that one. So that'll be an interesting conversation. I won't be going to Vegas anytime soon. If you had a younger person that was interested in getting involved in fashion design, like we were talking about earlier, it seems like kind of that fantasy job.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
Oh, I would recommend the same thing that was recommended to me when I was young, which is just do it.
Yeah.
Like, just do it. It just like go forth. Don't even think twice. People will tell you, "Oh no, you'll never make it."
Yeah,
it's a cutthroat industry, or being a creative, it doesn't pay money. These stupid things. But you just do it, and you'll be fine.
The industry, it kind of. I mean, I think us Joe Schmoes know very little about it, and just get kind of that sneak peek and the walking down the runway and champagne and party is that accurate representation? Is it like what is the life really like?
Well, I mean, it has fashion. The fashion industry is huge.
Yeah,
and there's a huge amount of money moving around, and it's global. Sweatshops are real. Slavery is real, and supermodels are also real. It runs the gamut. It goes from the darkest, seediest parts of humanity to the most glamorous and most highly admired. And you have to be very careful, like with anything else.
Yeah.
When you're involved.
I feel like a lot of Americans have a fair amount of blood on their hands with the sweatshop thing, because to make clothes that are as inexpensive as we buy them at, they have to be made for pennies.
Yeah.
Do you feel your customers are is that like part of what brings you customers? And like, I don't mind paying a little bit extra because I know where it's coming from. Kind of a shop local mentality. Because that seems to be a very big thing around here in Plymouth, is to like keep it local.
It is a very big thing in Plymouth. I am not sure what motivates most of my clients, but no one has actually said that to me.
Yeah.
I think that most of my clients may be motivated simply by
cool clothes.
Yeah. I think they may be interested in realizing some vision that they have, and they can't find in a store what it is they're looking for, and so they've decided to take matters into their own hands, and they're going to have it made.
Yeah.
But people who buy the ready-to-wear stuff seem to be more interested in shopping local. People who buy, I'm starting to branch out into home goods a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be offering very soon some hand-painted ceramics, because I have the kiln sitting in my house next to my washer dryer, so I better use it. But I also made a stock of handmade candles and some other things. And when I offer these things, people get pretty excited and they want to shop local. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be why they're buying those things from me and not from whatever Pottery Barn or whatever,
Walmart or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But I think when it comes to the custom stuff, there really is this like very specific and unique need that someone has, and they want to have this thing made for them, and it may not be so much, I don't know. Nobody's ever said to me that they're doing it because they want to shop local.
What's been like one of the weirder requests?
Somebody recently brought me their hockey skates. And they were like, "Can you please fix my hockey skates?"
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we sat down and fixed his hockey skates. It was pretty cool.
Wow,
it was pretty cool,
You're
yeah.
a cobbler, too.
Apparently.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was neat.
Well, I think we're just about running out of time here because Beer Cellar closes at 8, and I don't want Tatum to hurt me.
Okay.
Where can people go online to find out more about you?
MyaRoyal.com.
And are you on all the social medias?
I am. Like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and Vimeo and YouTube.
Wait, on what? What's Vimeo?
Vimeo?
I don't even know what the hell that one is.
Oh, really? It's a video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And YouTube, what do you...
I'd like to do a little more YouTube coming up.
Yeah.
Like just like little, just short videos about what I'm up to, or maybe tiny lessons about how to do simple sewing tasks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's been very cool to hang out with you. It was,
thank you.
It was neat to kind of just run into you, and I had no idea that something like this was going on.
Oh, yeah.
So
what's going on?
Yeah. How long has your shop been open?
Well, I started the business 10 years ago, but this Plymouth location has only been open for 4 months.
Okay. So I was going to welcome you to town, and I didn't want you to be like, well, I've been here like 2 years, Andy, and I'm like, well, I'm a jerk. So,
no, thank
welcome
you.
to town,
Thank you.
And we hope to see a lot more from you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
No
This has
problem.
been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for listening to the podcast, and you can get us on the internet on all social medias at Inebri-art, except for Instagram is at Inebri-art6. You can email us, inebriart@yahoo.com, with all your questions, comments, and complaints. And if you're looking for other podcasts, you can check out the other podcasts on the Inebri-art network. We have The Good Book. We have Retro Redoctopus. There is America's Hometown Horror. And, of course, Bar Talk, Old Colony Cast, and Inebri-art. So check those out and subscribe and comment, and that helps us reach more people. So thanks for listening.